There comes a moment in every life when the mirror no longer reflects merely the face you have shown the world, but the truth of what you have allowed yourself to become. And in that moment, if you are honest, you will admit that most of the battles you have fought were not against the world, but against yourself, and that far too many of them were lost before they began. For the enemy that defeats the majority of men is not the competition, nor the economy, nor the opinion of society. It is the inability to govern one's own mind. Men spend their lives trying to command armies, markets, and nations, but they remain slaves to the flicker of their own emotions, prisoners of impulses they have never learned to master. They speak of success as though it were a secret, hidden in the vaults of the fortunate few, when in truth the key to it has been placed in their hands from the very beginning. The power to control thought, to discipline emotion, to decide with clarity, and to act with precision. And yet, because they never turn this key, they lock themselves out of the very destiny they could have owned. If you would rebuild yourself for success, you must begin where all great reconstruction begins, in the architecture of the mind. You must understand with finality that success is not an accident. It is not luck, nor the kindness of fate. It is a cause and effect process rooted in the mastery of the inner world. And the first law in this mastery is this: you are not your emotions. You are their master, or you are their slave. Every defeat you have suffered in life can be traced back to a moment when you allowed emotion to dictate your decision. You spoke when you should have been silent. You acted when you should have waited. You trusted when you should have verified. You withdrew when you should have advanced. And in each case, the cause was the same: you reacted rather than responded, because you had not yet learned the art of detachment. Understand this: emotional detachment is not the absence of feeling, it is the control of it. It is the deliberate choice to remain unmoved until you have measured the situation with the scale of reason. It is the discipline to think first and decide second. As I have said before, if you allow emotions to govern your actions, you forfeit your power. But if you command your thoughts, you command your future. And so, the first step in rebuilding yourself for success is to stand at the gates of your own mind as a watchman stands at the gates of a fortress. You must examine every thought that seeks entry and ask, will this thought strengthen me, or will it weaken me? Will it lead me toward my purpose, or away from it? For the mind, like a fertile field, will yield whatever is planted in it. If you plant confusion, you will harvest chaos. If you plant discipline, you will harvest achievement. Definiteness of purpose is the cornerstone of this rebuilding. Without it, you are a wanderer on the open sea, at the mercy of the wind and the tide. But with it, you are the captain of your own ship, setting a deliberate course toward the harbor you have chosen. To possess definiteness of purpose is to say, this is where I am going, and nothing, not the weather, not the critics, not the failures along the way, will turn me aside. Most men fail because they never truly decide where they are going. They mistake movement for progress, and thus they run in circles until they collapse from exhaustion. Your purpose must be written not in the sand, but in stone. It must be clear enough to survive the storms of doubt, the whispers of envy, and the tremors of fear. And once it is fixed, you must subordinate every emotion, every thought, every action to its fulfillment. But purpose alone is not enough. Without self-discipline, purpose remains a wish. Discipline is the bridge between thought and accomplishment. It is the willingness to do what must be done, whether you feel like it or not. Discipline is the hammer that forges character. It is the daily act of forcing the mind to obey the will and the will to obey reason. And here is the truth that separates the successful from the failures. The successful man disciplines himself long before the world ever disciplines him. He becomes his own master before life can make him its servant. This discipline extends to every part of life, to the way you speak, the way you think, the way you handle money, the way you treat others, the way you govern your time. For time is the raw material of all wealth, and the man who wastes it will remain poor regardless of how much money he earns. To govern time, you must first govern thought, for every minute is lost not in the hands of the clock, but in the hands of distraction. And yet, discipline without emotional mastery will make you a rigid tyrant over yourself, inflexible and brittle. That is why the law of mental neutrality must be learned, the capacity to remain calm in the face of both praise and insult, gain and loss, victory and defeat. This is the mark of a mind that cannot be manipulated, a man who cannot be bought with flattery or broken with criticism. As Marcus Aurelius said, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. The man who has mastered himself does not chase opportunity. He attracts it. For opportunity is drawn to clarity, and clarity is the child of calmness. The agitated mind sees nothing but obstacles, but the calm mind sees patterns, solutions, and advantages invisible to the rest. To rebuild yourself for success, you must think of your mind as a fortress, your emotions as its gates, and your discipline as its walls. Let no intruder pass without inspection. Let no impulse rule without consent. Let no desire remain without direction. For in the end, the world crowns not the man who has conquered others, but the man who has conquered himself. And I tell you now, rebuild yourself, and you will rebuild your destiny. The tools are already in your possession. They are your thoughts, your will, your discipline, your capacity for detachment. Use them, and nothing on earth can stop you. Understand this clearly. Before you can rebuild yourself for success, you must first destroy the illusions that have governed your life until now. You must tear down the fragile scaffolding of excuses, the rotten beams of self-pity, and the false walls of emotional dependency. Most men will never taste real freedom because they are too afraid to demolish what is already crumbling. They cling to familiar habits even as those habits strangle their potential. They cling to familiar emotions even as those emotions poison their decisions. If you are to be remade, you must be willing to become ruthless with yourself, to tear away every thought and behavior that does not serve your highest aim. This will not be pleasant work. No reconstruction of a life ever island. You will confront truths you have avoided for years. You will see, perhaps for the first time, that much of your suffering was self-inflicted and much of your failure was self-permitted. This realization will burn, but it is the cleansing fire of reality, and it is only through this fire that a new self can be forged. Your first task is to seize control of your inner conversation. Every man lives under the influence of two voices, the voice of fear and the voice of faith. The voice of fear says, you cannot, you are not ready, you will fail. The voice of faith says, you can, you are ready, you will prevail. Whichever voice you feed will grow stronger. If you would master your mind, you must starve the voice of fear and feed the voice of faith until it drowns out every whisper of doubt. Here enters the principle of autosuggestion, the deliberate repetition of thoughts, spoken with conviction, that direct the subconscious mind toward your chosen destiny. Do not take this lightly. The subconscious mind does not care whether the seed you plant is of success or failure. It will accept whatever you feed it and set in motion forces that correspond to that seed. This is why undisciplined emotions are so dangerous. They feed the subconscious with thoughts of defeat, scarcity, resentment, and hesitation. And the subconscious faithfully turns those seeds into bitter fruit. From this moment forward, you must speak to yourself as a commander speaks to his army with clarity, with authority, and with absolute belief in victory. Every morning before the world can touch your mind, declare your definiteness of purpose. State it aloud, with the tone of one who already possesses it. Every night, before sleep carries you into the realm of the subconscious, repeat it again, impressing it deeper into the mind. In time, your thoughts will align with your purpose, your emotions will follow your thoughts, and your actions will naturally follow your emotions. You will notice, as you train your mind in this way, that you begin to detach from the petty provocations of life. The insults of others will no longer sting, for you will measure them against your purpose and find them irrelevant. The delays and setbacks that once filled you with frustration will become mere steps in the process, for you will see that they cannot alter the final outcome unless you allow them to. This is the power of detachment. It keeps your hand steady when others are trembling, your vision clear when others are blinded by chaos. And yet, emotional detachment does not mean you feel nothing. It means you feel deeply, but you govern those feelings as a master governs loyal servants. Love, ambition, confidence, these are mighty forces, but only when they serve the plan, Unchecked, they can consume you. Directed, they can lift you beyond the reach of mediocrity. Now, let us speak of accurate thinking, a discipline so rare that those who practice it rise above the masses as a mountain rises above the plain. Accurate thinking requires you to separate fact from opinion, to distinguish between what you know and what you merely assume. It demands that you question the source of every idea before you accept it, for the mind is a garden in which other men's weeds can take root if you are careless. Many have failed not because they lacked intelligence, but because they built their plans upon false premises. They believed rumors, they acted on feelings, they mistook temporary conditions for permanent realities. To practice accurate thinking, you must first control your emotions, for emotion is the enemy of objectivity. The man in the grip of anger will misjudge the character of his friends. The man in the grip of fear will exaggerate the strength of his enemies. If you would think accurately, you must first be calm. If you would be calm, you must first detach. If you would detach, you must first decide that your purpose is more important than your mood. Every day, you must examine your mind as a merchant examines his accounts. Ask yourself, what beliefs am I holding that cannot be proved? What assumptions am I making that have not been tested? What desires am I pursuing that do not serve my purpose? This habit will make you wealthy in clarity, and clarity is the currency of successful men. But do not mistake clarity for certainty. There will be moments in your rebuilding when the path ahead is obscured. In those moments, you must act with the information you have, trusting that decisive action will reveal more than endless deliberation. Remember, the world rewards movement, not hesitation. Even a small step forward is more valuable than 100 perfectly designed plans that never leave the mind. You must also cultivate personal initiative, the ability to act without waiting for permission, encouragement, or the perfect set of conditions. The man who waits for ideal circumstances will be buried with his dreams still inside him. The man who takes initiative bends circumstances to his will. This requires courage, for initiative is the art of stepping into uncertainty with the belief that you will master whatever you meet there. And here lies the heart of this entire philosophy. To rebuild yourself for success is to train the mind to remain sovereign under all conditions. The market may crash, you remain steady. Friends may betray, you remain focused. Opportunities may vanish, you create new ones. You are no longer a creature of conditions, you are the creator of them. The man who lives in reaction will always be the servant of the man who lives in response. Reaction is the reflex of the untrained mind. Response is the choice of the disciplined mind. Reaction hands over power to whatever force triggered it. Response keeps power in the hands of the one who chooses. You must ask yourself, right now, am I living in reaction or am I living in response? The answer to that question will tell you how much rebuilding lies ahead. Definiteness of purpose is the master key with which all other principles are turned. Without it, no amount of discipline, no degree of emotional control, no refinement of thought can lead you to lasting achievement, for you will have no fixed target at which to aim your efforts. A ship may be perfectly built, its crew disciplined, and its sails strong, but without a destination, it will drift until it rots at sea. Definiteness of purpose begins with the courage to decide what you truly want, not what your friends expect of you, not what your parents imagined for you, not what society praises this year and forgets the next, what you want. And here, most men fail before they even start. They have never taken the time to ask themselves what they would demand of life if there were no fear of failure, no fear of judgment, no limits on what they could become. They busy themselves with lesser goals. Because lesser goals are safer, they can be abandoned without shame. But a definite purpose, one that seizes the heart and demands the full measure of one's power, that is a dangerous thing, for it leaves no room for retreat. You must choose such a purpose and write it into your soul as a commander writes an unalterable order. It must be so vivid that you can see it when you close your eyes, so specific that you can measure every step toward it, and so compelling that no temporary setback can weaken your resolve. Vague desires breed vague results. The man who says, "I want success," will wander forever, for success has no fixed meaning. But the man who says, "I will build a business that serves 1 million customers by the age of 40, has given himself a map, and a map can be followed. Once your purpose is definite, you must align every resource you possess to serve it. your time, your energy, your relationships, your habits, your thoughts. Nothing must be allowed to survive in your life that does not in some way contribute to the fulfillment of that purpose. This will mean sacrifice. It will mean walking away from amusements that drain you, from conversations that weaken you, from people who cannot see beyond the smallness of their own lives. It will mean denying yourself pleasures in the present so that you may build power for the future. Do not confuse sacrifice with loss. You are not losing what you give up. You are trading it for something far greater. The farmer does not lament when he plants his seed in the ground and loses it, for he knows that what he will reap will be worth infinitely more. So it is with the sacrifices you make for your definite purpose. Every pleasure postponed, every distraction refused. Every hour spent in disciplined effort is a seed planted in the soil of destiny. But beware, the world will not applaud you for your definiteness of purpose, at least not at first. It will mock you for it. It will tell you that you are obsessed, unrealistic, inflexible. It will try to lure you back into the comfortable mediocrity from which you are escaping. And here, you must master emotional detachment, for the voices that seek to dissuade you will often be the voices of those you love most. They are not your enemies, but they are prisoners of their own fears, and they will unconsciously try to chain you with them. If you allow their emotions to govern your decisions, your purpose will be diluted until it is no longer worthy of the name. Definiteness of purpose transforms the mind in ways that are invisible to the casual observer. It sharpens your perception so that opportunities which others overlook become clear to you. It strengthens your resolve so that obstacles that break others become mere exercises for you. It accelerates your progress, for it eliminates the wasted motion of indecision. Most importantly, it brings order to your inner world, for it gives every thought and every emotion a single reference point by which to measure its value. And let us be clear, definiteness of purpose is not a one-time decision. It is a daily commitment, renewed in the face of distraction, temptation, and fatigue. Every morning, you must recommit to it as though you were beginning again. Every night, you must measure your day against it, asking, did I advance or did I drift? Did I act in harmony with my purpose, or did I betray it in thought or deed? This is the standard by which the builder of success must live. If you have not yet chosen your definite purpose, you must stop here, not in the reading of these words, but in the movement of your life until you have done so. For until you know where you are going, every step you take is random, and randomness is the enemy of achievement. When you have chosen, when you have committed, when you have stripped away every alternative and locked yourself upon a single aim, you will feel a strange transformation begin. Doubt will not vanish, but it will no longer paralyze you. Fear will not disappear, but it will no longer dictate your movements. You will begin to feel the weight of your own authority, the authority over your mind, over your time, over your destiny. From here, we must move into the second great pillar of rebuilding self-discipline, for without it, even the most definite purpose is nothing more than a beautifully drawn plan in the hands of a lazy architect. Self-discipline is the iron spine of all achievement. It is the bridge between the mind's vision and the hand's accomplishment. Without it, definiteness of purpose is reduced to wishful thinking, a castle drawn in the air with no foundation beneath it. With it, even modest goals are transformed into towering realities, for discipline is the force that converts intention into consistent action. Understand that discipline is not punishment, though the undisciplined will experience it as such when life imposes consequences upon them. True discipline is self-imposed order. It is the deliberate arrangement of your thoughts, habits, and actions so that every one of them serves your ultimate aim. The man without discipline waits to be moved by emotion or inspiration before he acts. The man with discipline acts regardless of how he feels, and in so doing, he shapes his feelings to match his actions. The weak man says, I will work when I feel motivated. The strong man says, I will work until I have earned the right to feel motivated. This is the fundamental difference between drifting through life and commanding it. If you wait for favorable moods before acting, you will live and die in a perpetual cycle of starting and stopping, moving and stalling, beginning and abandoning. But if you train yourself to act in the absence of favorable moods, you will discover that consistency creates momentum, and momentum is the ally of all great builders. Self-discipline begins in the mind. For every action is first a thought. To discipline your behavior, you must first discipline your thinking. This means you must reject mental indulgence in excuses, in self-pity, in fantasies of quick and easy gain. Such thoughts weaken the will and make action feel heavier than it truly island. The disciplined mind speaks to itself in terms of responsibility, duty, and possibility. It does not complain, it calculates. It does not daydream, it directs. But do not mistake discipline for rigidity. The disciplined man is not inflexible. He is adaptable without being aimless. He can adjust his tactics when reality demands it, but he will never abandon his strategy unless it has been replaced by a superior one. This is why self-discipline must always be tied to definiteness of purpose, for without a definite aim, discipline becomes mere busyness, an endless grinding in place that leads nowhere. Discipline must govern the use of time, for time is the raw material from which all accomplishments are carved. The undisciplined squander their hours in trivialities, forever promising themselves that they will begin tomorrow. The disciplined man guards his hours with the vigilance of a sentry at the gates of a fortress. He knows that every wasted minute is a brick stolen from the building of his destiny. He plans his day in advance, not to enslave himself to a schedule, but to ensure that the hours are deployed in the service of his highest aims. Discipline must also govern the use of resources. This includes money, for money is a tool of creation in the hands of the disciplined and a source of bondage in the hands of the reckless. The man who cannot discipline his spending will never have the capital to seize opportunities when they appear. The man who disciplines his finances, living below his means and directing surplus into investments that align with his purpose, gains a quiet power that compounds over time. It must govern the use of energy as well. The undisciplined waste their strength in needless arguments, in pursuits that do not advance them, in the maintenance of relationships that drain rather than replenish. The disciplined man asks, before committing his energy, will this move me closer to my aim or further from it? If it will not advance his purpose, he declines, not out of coldness, but out of loyalty to the life he has chosen to build. And discipline must govern emotion. This is where discipline and detachment intertwine most closely. For the undisciplined man is a leaf blown by the wind of feeling one moment lifted high by excitement, the next dashed to the ground by discouragement. The disciplined man feels both winds, but he sets his sail according to his chart, not according to the weather. He does not deny his emotions, but he refuses to obey them when they contradict his purpose. Know this. Self-discipline is not natural to the majority. It is an acquired skill, and it is built in small increments. A man does not become disciplined by grand gestures, but by the consistent enforcement of small laws upon himself. Rising at the hour you have set, keeping the appointments you have made, completing the tasks you have promised, each is a brick in the wall of discipline. Over time, the wall grows strong enough to withstand any storm. But there is a danger here, the danger of selective discipline. Many will be disciplined in one area while allowing chaos in another, and they will wonder why their progress is slow. The truth is that discipline must be applied universally, for any point of weakness will eventually become the entryway for defeat. A man who is disciplined in his work but careless in his health will see his body betray his ambitions. A man who is disciplined in his finances but reckless in his relationships will see distraction erode his focus. Discipline must be a way of life, not a part-time posture. The reward for this all-encompassing discipline is freedom, the very thing the undisciplined believe they are preserving by avoiding discipline. In truth, every indulgence of weakness is another chain upon the mind, another link in the prison of mediocrity. Only the disciplined man is truly free, for only he has the power to choose his path and walk it without being dragged from it by impulse or temptation. You will know you have attained true self-discipline when your own approval becomes more important than the approval of others, when your ability to keep a promise to yourself outweighs the pleasure of breaking it for temporary comfort. You will know it when you begin to feel an inner authority that cannot be bribed by ease or shaken by difficulty. This authority is the hallmark of the self-governed man, and it is the surest sign that you are no longer drifting through life but steering it. From here, we must advance into the next great pillar, mastery over emotion, for discipline governs action, but emotional mastery governs the state of mind in which that action is taken. A man may be disciplined in movement, yet internally enslaved if he has not mastered his emotional world. Mastery over emotion is the third great pillar of the rebuilt mind, the final safeguard against the internal sabotage that destroys more dreams than all external obstacles combined. For while definiteness of purpose fixes your destination and self-discipline moves you toward it, it is mastery over emotion that ensures you will not be thrown off course by the tempest within. The untrained mind believes that emotion is the master and man is the servant. The trained mind knows the reverse is true. Feelings are messengers, not rulers. They are signals, not commands. The man who does not understand this becomes their slave, forever pulled in the direction of the strongest impulse at the moment. He begins the day with enthusiasm and ends it in despair, not because the world has changed, but because his internal weather has shifted. Understand this. Your emotions are the raw energy of your mind, and like any energy, they can be destructive or constructive depending on their direction. Fire can warm a home or burn it to the ground. The same is true of anger, ambition, fear, love. Until you learn to control their use, you will remain at their mercy. Emotional mastery does not mean suppression. Suppression is the act of burying emotions alive, only to have them resurface later in distorted and destructive ways. Mastery means acknowledging the emotion, examining it, and deciding how and when it will be expressed, if at all. It is the refusal to act automatically. It is the space between stimulus and response in which reason can speak. This is why detachment is the supreme skill of the successful mind. Detachment does not mean apathy. It means you are present enough to feel, but not so entangled that feeling dictates your action without your consent. The detached man can face insult without immediate retaliation, can face opportunity without reckless greed, can face loss without collapsing into despair. In this way, detachment is the armor of the will. It shields your decision-making from the corrosive effects of uncontrolled feeling. Consider this truth. Most of the great errors of human history were made in moments of emotional excess. Wars declared in anger, fortunes lost in greed, alliances broken in jealousy, opportunities missed in fear. And in the lives of individuals, the same pattern holds. Look back on your own greatest regrets, and you will find that many were born in moments where emotion ruled and reason was silent. Therefore, to master emotion, you must first observe it without judgment. When you feel anger rising, do not immediately fight it or follow it. Step back and study it. Ask, what has triggered this? Is the threat real or is it imagined? Will acting on this feeling bring me closer to my purpose or will it pull me away? The very act of questioning begins to dissolve the emotional fog and restore clarity. This practice develops what I call mental neutrality, the ability to hold the mind steady in both triumph and disaster. The masses celebrate wildly in victory and collapse in defeat. The master of himself does neither. He accepts both with the same calm acknowledgement, for he knows that neither is final and neither defines him. Mental neutrality does not diminish passion, it refines it. The man who remains calm in the midst of chaos can direct his energy where it matters most. While others are consumed by panic, he is identifying solutions. While others are blinded by rage, he is finding advantage. While others are drunk on success and wasting their momentum, he is quietly building his next victory. But let me be clear, emotional mastery is not achieved in comfort. You cannot train your emotions in an environment where nothing challenges them. You must deliberately place yourself in situations that test your patience, your courage, your composure. If you avoid every discomfort, you will remain emotionally fragile, unable to endure the pressure of high stakes. Controlled exposure to difficulty is the forge in which emotional steel is made. One of the most practical tools for mastering emotion is to separate fact from interpretation in every situation. Something happens that is fact. You assign meaning to it that is interpretation. It is in this second step that emotion is born. If you train yourself to examine the facts before forming an interpretation, you create a gap. in which reason can operate. This gap is where power lives. The moment you control the meaning you assign to events, you control the emotion those events produce. This is why two people can face the same setback and respond in opposite ways. One sinks into despair, the other sees opportunity. The difference is not in the event, it is in the interpretation. And interpretation is a choice. Emotional mastery also requires that you control your environment, for environment influences emotion more than most realize. The people you associate with, the media you consume, the places you spend your time, all of these shape the emotional climate of your mind. If you surround yourself with the anxious, you will breathe anxiety. If you surround yourself with the disciplined, you will inhale discipline. Choose your environment as deliberately as you choose your purpose. Finally, know this: the highest form of emotional mastery is the ability to generate the state of mind you require at will, regardless of external conditions. The undisciplined man waits for inspiration, the master creates it. The undisciplined man waits for confidence to arrive, the master produces it through decisive action. The undisciplined man waits for calm to return. The master summons it through deliberate breathing and focused thought. When you have reached this level, nothing external can shake you for long. You will move through life as a steady force, unshaken by storms, untempted by illusions, unmoved by the baited hooks of provocation. Others will wonder at your calm, your clarity, your consistency. They will call it luck, they will call it talent, but you will know it is the product of deliberate training, of years spent mastering the one battlefield where victory is always possible, the inner world. From here, our path leads to accurate thinking, the method by which the disciplined, emotionally masterful mind separates truth from falsehood, builds plans on solid ground, and navigates the complexities of life without being deceived. Accurate thinking is the fourth great pillar of the rebuilt mind, the instrument that keeps your course true when the fog of opinion and the crosswinds of misinformation threaten to pull you into the reefs of error. Without it, definiteness of purpose can be misdirected, self-discipline can be applied to unworthy ends, and emotional mastery can be wasted defending false conclusions. With it, you gain the rarest advantage in the modern world, the ability to see reality as it is, uncorrupted by distortion, wishful thinking, or the noise of the crowd. To think accurately is to make decisions based on verified truth, rather than hearsay, assumption, or unchecked emotion. It is to examine every idea, every claim, every fact with the same question in mind. What is the source? Can it be proven? Does it serve my purpose? This discipline demands more than intelligence. It demands integrity, the integrity to prefer an uncomfortable truth over a comforting lie, the integrity to reject even your own cherished beliefs when the evidence proves them false. The untrained mind accepts information as a child accepts candy eagerly, without examination, intoxicated by sweetness. The trained mind treats information as a merchant treats currency, testing it for authenticity before adding it to the vault. Inaccurate thinking is the breeding ground of failure, for it builds plans on sand, and sand cannot bear the weight of ambition. Understand that accurate thinking has two primary functions. The first is separating facts from mere information. A fact is something that can be observed, verified, and agreed upon by all who examine it honestly. Information, by contrast, may be nothing more than someone's opinion, interpretation, or desire dressed in the clothing of certainty. The disciplined thinker demands evidence before granting the status of fact. The second function is separating facts into two categories, important and unimportant. Here lies a subtle trap that captures even intelligent men. They collect facts endlessly, mistaking accumulation for progress, when in truth, only a small fraction of those facts will ever be relevant to their definite purpose. The rest are distractions, polished stones that do nothing to build the foundation of success. Accurate thinking demands that you identify your purpose first, for only then can you determine which facts are important to it. Without a definite aim, you cannot know which information is worth keeping and which should be discarded. This is why accurate thinking is always the ally of definiteness of purpose. They are interdependent. You must also develop the habit of questioning the motives of those who present information to you. Every piece of information carries with it the bias of its source. Ask yourself, What does this person gain if I believe this? What do they lose if I reject it? This is not cynicism, it is prudence. The world is filled with those who would happily have you act against your own interests if it serves theirs. The accurate thinker is not swayed by charm, rhetoric, or the weight of public opinion. He is swayed only by truth. And yet, truth itself is not always easily found. It often hides beneath layers of distortion, requiring patience and persistence to uncover. The accurate thinker is willing to do this work, knowing that a single sound conclusion is worth more than 100 hasty opinions. He knows that speed is the virtue of the salesman, but accuracy is the virtue of the strategist. Accurate thinking also demands the discipline of perspective, the ability to view a situation from multiple angles before forming a judgment. The man who sees only from his own vantage point will always mistake a part of the truth for the whole. To think accurately, you must be able to step outside yourself, to imagine how the same facts might appear to another mind, to test your conclusions against alternative interpretations. In this way, you refine your view until it aligns not with preference, but with reality. But beware of the opposite extreme, the paralysis of endless consideration. The accurate thinker does not delay action indefinitely in search of perfect certainty, for such certainty rarely exists. Instead, he gathers sufficient facts to make the best possible decision, then commits to it fully, adjusting as new facts emerge. Accuracy is not the same as perfection. It is the habit of acting on the best available truth while remaining open to revision when better truth appears. One of the greatest enemies of accurate thinking is emotional attachment to a conclusion. Once a man has invested his ego in being right, he will twist facts to fit his position, rather than adjusting his position to fit the facts. This is why emotional mastery is essential to accurate thinking. It allows you to release a cherished belief the moment it is shown to be false, without feeling diminished. The undisciplined mind treats such correction as a wound to its pride. The disciplined mind treats it as an upgrade to its operating system. In practice, accurate thinking means you will often stand apart from the majority. The masses form their conclusions quickly, loudly, and in unison, for there is comfort in shared error. The accurate thinker may walk alone for a time, quietly building his plans on solid rock while the crowd builds theirs on shifting sand. But when the storms come, and they always come, it will be the solitary builder whose structure remains. Accurate thinking is your compass in the wilderness, your anchor in the storm, your safeguard against the seductions of easy belief. Without it, you are a leaf blown by the winds of rumor, manipulation, and wishful thinking. With it, you are a master navigator, charting your course by the fixed stars of verified truth. From here, the path leads to the final great pillar, personal initiative, the power to move without waiting for permission, to act before circumstances demand it, to create opportunity rather than merely respond to it. Personal initiative is the spark that ignites purpose, the fuel that sustains discipline, the motion that carries accurate thinking into the realm of results. Without it, even the clearest vision remains a daydream, the strongest discipline remains unused strength, the most accurate plan remains ink on paper. With it, you become a force in the world, one who shapes conditions instead of waiting to be shaped by them. The masses live in the posture of reaction. They wait for events to compel them, for circumstances to force their hand, for opportunity to knock before they even consider answering. They are like ships that wait for the tide to lift them before setting sail, forgetting that the most skilled captains are those who can navigate in both tide and still water. Personal initiative is the rejection of this passivity. It is the refusal to wait for life to shove you forward. It is the deliberate choice to take the first step, to make the first move, to set things in motion before the world demands it. Understand this: personal initiative is not recklessness. It is not the undisciplined rush into action without thought or preparation. True initiative is guided by the previous pillars, by definiteness of purpose, by the steadiness of discipline, by mastery over emotion, by the clarity of accurate thinking. It is movement with intent, action with calculation, progress with direction. Those who possess personal initiative understand that perfect conditions are a myth. They know that if they wait until the stars align, they will wait until death. There will always be uncertainty. There will always be risk. There will always be reasons to delay. The man of initiative acts anyway, for he understands that action creates clarity. Movement reveals the terrain in a way that thought alone never can. The greatest opportunities are often invisible to the idle observer because they only appear in response to action. A man who takes initiative sets in motion a chain of events that exposes him to people, information, and possibilities that would have remained hidden had he remained still. Action is the invitation that causes opportunity to present itself. But personal initiative is not merely about seizing opportunities, it is about creating them. The man of initiative does not wait for a door to open, he builds his own door. He does not wait for a problem to arise before finding solutions. He anticipates the problem and is ready before others even see it coming. He is not content to do only what is required. He looks for what is possible beyond the requirement. This quality is so rare that it is instantly noticed and valued in any environment. In business, in leadership, in creative work, the individual who acts without needing to be told, who moves projects forward without constant supervision, becomes indispensable. This is why those with personal initiative rise to positions of influence and command, not because they are more talented than others, but because they move while others hesitate. And yet, personal initiative requires courage, the courage to act without guarantees, to expose yourself to the possibility of failure, to risk criticism and misunderstanding. The man who fears these things will forever remain at the mercy of the man who dares them. Courage is not the absence of fear, it is the decision to act in spite of it. Initiative is the practical application of courage in the pursuit of purpose. You must understand that the exercise of initiative will often place you ahead of others, and this will make them uncomfortable. The world is not always kind to those who move faster, think deeper, or act sooner than the crowd. Your initiative will sometimes be met with resistance, skepticism, even hostility. This is why emotional mastery is essential. You must be able to act without being deterred by the reactions of others. The man of initiative is proactive in every sphere of his life. In his work, he seeks new methods to increase efficiency, to solve problems, to create value. In his relationships, he takes the first step toward reconciliation, toward collaboration, toward understanding. In his personal growth, he seeks out the skills, the knowledge, the habits that will strengthen him, without waiting for necessity to demand them. To develop personal initiative, you must train yourself to ask, in every situation, what can I do now without being asked that will move me closer to my goal? What action can I take that will add value before it is required? Then act on the answer immediately. This habit, repeated daily, transforms initiative from a rare effort into a natural reflex. The rewards of personal initiative compound over time. The more you act, the more opportunities you encounter. The more opportunities you encounter, the more results you produce. The more results you produce, the greater your influence and reach become. This compounding effect is invisible to the passive observer, who sees only the later stages and mistakes them for luck. In truth, what they are seeing is the harvest of seeds planted long before. When definiteness of purpose gives you direction, when self-discipline gives you consistency, when mastery over emotion gives you steadiness, and when accurate thinking gives you clarity, personal initiative gives you motion, and motion, sustained over time, becomes momentum. Momentum is the invisible force that carries you past obstacles that once seemed immovable, that turns effort into achievement, that transforms vision into reality. Now, with these pillars in place, the structure of your rebuilt self stands ready. Purpose as the foundation, discipline as the walls, emotional mastery as the reinforcement, accurate thinking as the design, initiative as the force that animates it. All that remains is for you to live within it, not as a tenant who rents his habits from another, but as the owner and master of his own mind. You stand now at a crossroads. One path leads to the life you have already known, the life of hesitation, of scattered focus, of being pushed and pulled by the whims of emotion and the opinions of others. The other path leads to the life you have always suspected was possible, a life governed not by chance but by choice, not by reaction but by deliberate creation. This second path is not promised to you. It is not handed down by fortune. not inherited from bloodline, not granted by any external authority. It is built brick by brick, day by day, decision by decision, by the one who dares to master himself. If you would rebuild yourself for success, the time is not later. It is not when the conditions are perfect, not when the fear is gone, not when someone else gives you permission. It is now. For every day you delay, the habits of the old self tighten their grip, and the chance to reshape your destiny slips further from your grasp. Fix your definiteness of purpose like a stake driven deep into the ground, one that no storm can uproot. Write it into your mind with such clarity that every decision you face will be measured against it. Then bind yourself to the unbreakable chain of self-discipline, forging it link by link in the small daily victories that others overlook. Learn to do what must be done, whether or not you feel like doing it, until your will becomes law to your body and your mind. Take mastery over your emotions as a king takes control of his kingdom, not crushing the people, but governing them wisely. Feel deeply, but rule those feelings. Let no impulse seize the throne without your consent. Train yourself to stand unmoved in the face of both triumph and disaster, knowing that neither is permanent and both are tests of your steadiness. Think with the precision of a master craftsman, practicing accurate, thinking in every matter, separating fact from opinion, truth from assumption, relevance from distraction. Let no lie, not even one you tell yourself, remain unchallenged in the court of your mind, for only a mind built on truth can withstand the pressure of great achievement. And above all, move, act, advance. Let personal initiative be the pulse in your veins, driving you to create opportunities where none are visible, to take the first step where others wait, to prove through motion that you are the architect of your fate. The world belongs to those who begin. Do not imagine that this work will be easy. It will not. You will face days when the temptation to drift will whisper sweetly in your ear, when the comfort of the old self will call you back. You will face doubt, resistance, and moments where progress seems invisible. But these are the signs that you are on the right path, for no man rebuilds himself without tearing down what once stood in its place. When the world tests you, and it will remember this, the man who has mastered himself cannot be defeated. He may be delayed, but never stopped. He may be opposed, but never overthrown. For his foundation is not built on the shifting sands of circumstance, but on the bedrock of inner control. If you will live by these principles not as passing inspiration, but as the permanent law of your life, then there will come a day when you will look back and scarcely recognize the person you once were. You will see in the mirror a mind that thinks with clarity, a will that acts with discipline, a spirit that remains calm in the storm, and a life that moves ever closer to its chosen destiny. And when that day comes, you will understand that success was never about the fortune, the fame, or the applause. It was about the quiet authority of knowing that you command yourself, and in commanding yourself, you command your future. So begin now, not tomorrow, not when the time is right, now. Write your purpose, enforce your discipline, govern your emotions, guard your thinking, act without waiting, and do it again tomorrow and the day after until the new self is no longer something you are building but something you have become. For the man who has rebuilt himself in this way is not merely successful, he is unstoppable.